Welcome to Integrative Wellness Solutions, International Athletes and BEMER. I'm Lisa Henke, co-founder of this company, along with Dr. Barbara Borland. Hello, Barbara.
Hi. Welcome, everybody.
If you do have questions, we'll go ahead. You can put them in the Q&A, and we'll answer as many of those at the end as we possibly can. Well, today we are excited about the BEMER and athletes, but first things first, let's look at the disclaimer. This is intended for educational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your healthcare practitioner. So what are we going to do in the next 10 or 15 minutes? Well, we're going to meet Krista Markey, 7-time national cycling champion. We're going to hear what other elite athletes are saying about the BEMER. Why is that important to us? Then what the heck is the BEMER if it's not a car? We'll hear from some more elite athletes. And then Krista Markey is going to share with us his recovery from a crash that he had. So let's get going.
I have the BEMER Pro, which I've had for years. And Rochelle and I, we run dual mats. So the BEMER's been fabulous. And
so for the people who may not know dual mats, what that means is that they are using the sleep mode, which is amazing for detoxification.
Next, let's hear from some other Olympic or elite athletes. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of Olympic athletes using the BEMER. First, over here up on the left-hand side is Tina Weirother. She is I'm going to read from her quote. She's the 2018 Super G bronze medalist, and she says, "I've been using the BEMER for quite some time and am convinced that the treatment has greatly relieved the injuries I sustained during the last few years. I can regenerate far more quickly with the BEMER after tough training sessions, making it possible for me to train more intensely." That is a good thing. And then we've got Christopher Sosaucer. He is an Olympic medalist, world champion mountain biker. He says, "Sleeping on the mat is easy, and I think I recover really well during my sleep. I rarely experience days of low energy, even when I race a lot and train hard." And that's what we want to do. We want to train hard. And then there's Daniela Miley down here. She is the snowboard champion, and she says, "To be a winner in the snowboarding, you have to give 100%. BEMER not only helps me optimize my training, but also supports me during the necessary regeneration phase." There are a lot more comments, but we'll just leave it with those three. If you'd like to have additional, just let us know. And now, why is that important to us? Well, have you ever stood in a corral, freezing, waiting for a race to start? Have you ever had a car collide with you and your bike and still get back on the bike? How about wrapping your toes? So many of the things that we do don't make any sense to the guy that's not the athlete. But if you're an athlete, it gets in your blood. You want to stay in the game because you love it. You love training. You love the events. And that's why the BEMER is so important. Well, what is the BEMER? Well, it's not this cool looking car, which I had one. What the BEMER is it's a mat that you lay on twice a day. It increases the microcirculation of those tiny little blood vessels, the capillaries. 74% of our blood flow is in those vessels. So let's look and see what that looks like. That's poor blood flow. Good blood flow. What would you rather have? Poor blood flow or good blood flow? What do you think would be better for your training and regeneration? So if you lay on the BEMER mat twice a day for 8 minutes each, you are going to have more energy, concentration, endurance, strength, recovery. 16 minutes a day, and you get to be a better athlete. So who else is using the BEMER? The Diamondbacks, the 49ers, Boris Becker, Will Shields, PGA Tour golfers, the USC men's tennis team, and the list goes on and on. So let's hear from a few of them what they had to say. Boris Becker, I think we all know, the tennis professional. He says, since I've been using the BEMER system, my discomfort has been greatly relieved and my general feeling of well-being has improved immensely as a result. And just this past June, the NFL alumni partnered with BEMER. They know that those guys need all of the recovery they can get. And if you listen to Will Shields, who's an NFL Hall of Famer, he said, wow, what a difference it has made in my life. My energy is now through the roof and I feel better mentally. That is great news for somebody who's taken probably a lot of bangs in his life and out on that football field. And the other thing that I think is really important is, where is the BEMER, kind of validation? Does this thing work? Well, NASA and BEMER have a joint collaboration to put the BEMER in the spacesuits. That was really important to Barbara and I to hear that validation when we first started learning about BEMER. So now we know the athletes, the validation, and let's hear from Cheryl Gregg and her experience with the BEMER. She is a fitness and training expert. She's a breast cancer survivor, a mother and a grandmother. Doesn't look like a grandmother to me, but let's hear Cheryl's experience.
So I've known about the BEMER for a while, and just knowing the benefits of what it is and how it really, with the company I'm in with the nerve to activation, how that is a good combination. And I had the opportunity, thanks to you and Barbara, to use the BEMER, and I had it for about 6 days. And I have some different injuries from training, and part of it's, I think, chemo residue type stuff, but I don't know. I honestly felt like I had a fractured foot is how I was thinking.
Oh my God.
It hampered everything in my everyday life, from, just getting up in the morning, but to my own doing cardio, working out, training people. It was very, very uncomfortable. And so I sat and thought about it for a minute, and it was about 70% better just from that one time. It's really a life-changing type thing. You have an injury that hampers your daily activities. And to be able to have something that so quickly was so beneficial. So I am so excited. I can't even imagine what I'll feel like having it all the time. And
an injury can hamper your training, can hamper your events. And Cheryl says that the BEMER, after just a few days, was life-changing.
So
let's hear from Chris DeMarchi and his experience with the BEMER after his accident.
To an athlete, but to just the general public too can relate. But it's the recovery, it's the blood flow, it's the healing of the damage you're doing. So, for instance, athletes, when we are training really hard and then we start to take a day off, we tend to get some swelling. Especially in the calf area and the quads. No different than an average Joe that would fly on an airplane and get the same type of swelling. Okay. The BEMER takes care of that. The BEMER allows just the blood flow and the healing and the recovery. 20 years ago, we would recover by just going out on our bike again and riding.
Okay.
At 15 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour for 45 minutes just to get blood flow. The BEMER does that for you, and it does it for you while you sleep.
Oh man, that is great. I've never heard it described like that, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So I can tell you on a personal note, for injury, last March, so a year and a few months, maybe let's just call it 15, 16 months ago, I was involved in a bad bike crash, and I shattered my shoulder and I broke my hip, and I was laid up.
Oh my gosh.
I was awful. I was in the hospital for a couple days. actually brought me. And so I use the BEMER basically 3 times a day for 20 minutes a day on my hip and shoulder.
With the applicator, with the localized applicator?
Yeah, I was using the applicators both on my hip and my shoulder. I was 20 minutes 3 times a day like clockwork because I was just basically bedridden.
Yep.
Was out of my wheelchair in 11 days. I was out of a walker in 6 days after that. And 22 days after I broke my hip, I rode 47 miles. I think keeping your body in tune, I think helping it recover. There's so much, especially with endurance athletes, runners and cyclists, you know, you're dealing with things like your sodium level, you know, so you don't cramp. You're dealing with fatigue. You're dealing with dehydration. And the BEMER simply 8 minutes in the morning, 8 minutes at night will make you 50% better with all of that.
Wow.
It'll help your nutrition. It'll help your blood flow. You're not going to have those little aches and pains. And really, it's a great tool. And it's not, and that's the beauty. It's not just a tool for your athlete. You know, they can use it. The whole family can use it.
Right.
Well, we first of all want to thank Chris DeMarchi for taking the time and being so gracious with it to interview. He is not only this endurance elite award-winning athlete, he and his fiancee Rochelle are absolutely great people giving back to their community. And so we were honored that they took the time. Barbara, before I wrap it up, do you have any words for our audience?
Well, again, thanks, Lisa, for what a great job. Very quickly summarizing the major highlights of how elite endurance athletes are using BEMER. But I just keep thinking about the fact that this is such a validation for us to hear what it does for the athletes, because it's really very much the same as what we've been telling the general public about the general use of BEMER. And this is the deal. When you lay on the BEMER mat for 8 minutes twice a day, then you are going to have substantially increased flow throughout the tiniest blood vessels in your body. And that takes place throughout every hour of every day, just like on that green video. And what happens when we do that? You know, when we have an increased blood flow, then that means that every cell in our body is getting the advantage of having oxygen delivery, nutrient delivery, fluid delivery, and then all of the things our body makes to make our body run, like neurotransmitters and hormones and different kinds of receptors and communicating proteins, all of that's delivered right to every single cell. And then, of course, the additional benefit is when you have all that increased blood flow, then you're going to wipe out all of that, all those toxins that gets built up. And man, we know it's happening in the endurance athlete. They actually can measure it and see it. So we know it's happening for everybody else. It was just a great validation to hear this from Chris.
It was.
It was good.
Well,
To an athlete, but
let's wrap up here. So let's recap. Athletes in BEMER. As Barbara said, 8 minutes twice a day. What do you get? Endurance and energy, restoration, cardiac function. And it is not just for you, it's for your entire family. And it's easy to use. So there's so many great things that you can achieve on your health with the BEMER.